If you asked any expat artist currently based in Vietnam what their inspirations are, you'll most likely get the answer that it is Vietnam itself. Whether it's the landscape, the human, or just the language, there's always something to take away from and turn into artwork. For Vietnam-based American painter David Evans, it's no exception either. However, the way he found inspiration from Vietnamese poetry and mythology sets his abstract art apart from many of his contemporaries. What makes his art unique and special? We'll meet with David himself and find out through a story of inspiration and art in this week's On the Mic.
Words, what they do is they touch the senses of the imagination. Words themselves become the brushstroke. And, it's not a pencil that makes the line, it's language that makes the line.
And with that philosophy, David Evans has brought his fascination of text and shapes of words into his artwork, creating a style uniquely to himself. Recently, that style had been brought out in its full glory in an exhibition named Scrolls, in that words and texts are a prominent feature, some of which shapes the paintings itself. However, there's a little fact that not many people know of. The inspiration behind most of these works came from Vietnamese poetry and myths.
So thank you so much, David, it's so great to have you on the show.
No, it's my pleasure.
Yes. So first question, congratulations on your recent exhibitions. And I have to ask, you have multiple exhibitions and collaboration works in Vietnam. But what makes Scrolls stand out from other exhibitions?
So, first of all, the name of the exhibition, Scroll. It can be a noun and a verb, right? So you can have it as a noun where you have a scroll, right? An ancient text that unravels. Or it could be in the modern sense, which is on your smartphone, scroll, right?
Yeah.
Because what it explored was the past and its relationship with the present, you see, or ancient and modern. And the scroll was really powerful, I believe, because it did not so much tell a story as much as it used the story to ask questions. And the primary question that it asked was, what is Vietnamese modernity? Because up until that point, and even now, you often hear a lot of people use the word modern and Western as synonyms. And that's just not the case, right? Like each culture, each nation, people have their own modernity. And scroll was just a way using past. Like how do people integrate the past to create their modernity now?
When you speak about scroll, you cannot miss the words, right? The text that is in the scroll, which is something that you feature a lot in your painting. It seems like a common theme throughout all of your exhibitions and all of your paintings. So what does words means to you? And how do you use it? And what kind of story are you telling through those words?
So words, what they do is they touch the senses of the imagination. They touch the senses of the heart, right? They're not operating in this three-dimensional space. They're non-dimensional because they're fully in the imagination. So when you put text or words or language on a painting, each individual is seeing that painting utterly different. And that's the power of words. Like words themselves become the brushstroke, right? And it's not a pencil that makes the line, it's language that makes the line. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why I use words, because I want to hit the imagination. Not so much the actual physical senses. For example, the work Metamorphosis, that's the name of the work. In one sphere of the work, you have derivations of Greek, Nordic, even East African mythology. And then in the other sphere, you have these kind of diluted headlines from news or Twitter accounts. And it shows the digression of communication, the digression of how we communicate our ideals, our values.
The sound came from Brooklyn, the story from the Bronx, the color came from France, and the feeling from Vietnam. These are the preface on David Evans's biography, which in itself already showcased the different places he has lived through and the rich experience that this American painter has accumulated over years working in different art scenes. Growing up working in New York, moving to France later to find his path, but only after he set foot in Vietnam did he find the urge to create the art he is creating today.
So obviously you've been all around the world, and you took your art with you everywhere. So what is the experience making art in Vietnam compared to other countries you've been to?
Because the thing with Vietnam, like with the people I interact with, interactions tend to be subtle. It's like New York, you know. New York's quite in your face. You know, if someone inspires you, it's like, bam.
Yeah.
They're a force, you know. France is the same, really. Vietnam is more subtle. You know, it's more like a collection of experiences that accumulate into an expression. You know, maybe I meet one artist. He invites me to his studio, and there's something that he's doing that I really like. Then the lady down the street who makes the best banh mi. That's sort of a collection, right? You know, there's a connection that's made, you know. So it's really a collection of experiences. And that's my experience in Vietnam. Vietnam has a pulse, you know, that its appearance is utterly different than New York, but it's got that same essence, like this pulse. It's alive, it's breathing, it's living, you know, it's really going. When I was in France, the history, the story, the mythology, it's all in a museum. It's behind glass. It's old. It's done. It's something to be looked at from afar. Whereas I feel like in Vietnam, people live out their mythology. They live out their story. They live out the folk tales. And it can be in the form of an obvious way of, you know, burning votive paper to an ancestor, which I find absolutely remarkable. That's something I value as well, ancestry. You know, or it can be as subtle as just what people are saying to you. Right? That mythology is still in the society.
So the combination of modernity and the past, the legend and the myth and the modern devices is what is one of your common theme of your painting. So when you come to Vietnam, how does that theme manifest into your art?
How does that theme manifest? That's really a good question. You know, as you said, it's like I do incorporate a plethora of mythology, story, folktale, poetry into the work, right? But the most powerful way that Vietnamese literary history has influenced me is through its poetry. There's one painting I did of a bass player, very New York, bass player in Brooklyn with music, jazz and to be specific. But one particular line of Vietnamese poetry was really the feeling behind that. And I couldn't tell you who it was or what the name of the poem was, but it was something along the lines of the immortal hand tips the wine of sin. I have no idea what that means, but I love it. You feel it, right? There's a lot of different interpretations, and that feeling it gives you, I incorporate into my work. And so without Vietnamese poetry, because I live in Vietnam, I think my works would look very different.
So what is it that lies ahead of you? Do you have any future plans, any future exhibitions, or any future endeavors that the audience may be looking forward to?
I've been studying a lot of architecture lately, and I want to do an exhibition. I want to do it in November. I want to do an exhibition where I use, as you see here, the glass here, where you can see your reflection, right? The time of day, that looks different, depending on the time of day, right? And you can even use this to cast shadows. The words will cast shadows, and you can read the words as a shadow. And I want to create something which uses light and language as a material itself. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I want to do that, right? Now, the details, how it looks, how it'll be, I don't know. But I will know, because that's what I'm working on now.
Well, thank you so much, David, for spending your time with us today, and we hope that all your future endeavors will receive much attention, not only from Vietnam, but from the international community as well. And I hope that your journey in Vietnam will continue, and you will continue to be inspired by everything Vietnam.